I have a unique career focus. I love to help teams perform beyond their expectation. I also have a very unique hobby. I love to balance rocks. The two came together for me about 15 years ago when I became a certified rock balancer. Yes, it's true. There is such a thing. But recently I've come to realize how core this fun trivia topic is to my vocation. And it has had a profound effect on my work with organizational leaders. As part of my certification, I learned 3 rock balancing principles. Number 1, any 2 rocks will speak to you over time. Any 2 rocks will balance over time. Number 2, the rocks must speak to you. And number 3, well, I admit I don't remember the 3rd principle. And that might explain why I'm still a pretty amateur rock balancer. Go on YouTube, search for rock balancing, and you'll see what I mean. And just to be clear, I don't mean rock stacking. There is a difference. I'll come back to that. I have learned enough, though, to prove that almost any 2 rocks will balance over time, provided they speak to me. My favorite place for rock balancing is the New England coast. My family would vacation there almost every summer. We'd get to the beach around low tide. We'd settle the kids in for building sandcastles and searching for sea creatures. And then I would go hunting for rocks. Or maybe I should say listening. Let me explain. First, rock balancing begins with observation. You won't know which rocks are most likely to balance until you spend time getting to know them. Some rocks speak to me instantly. The shape that looks like it will never defy gravity. The heft that will never move once it finds its balance. And then there are some rocks that just look like a challenge to see how they'll respond to the balancing process. Every successful rock sculpture rests on a solid foundation. Finding a larger rock anchored in a sandbar gives me confidence I'm working with a sturdy balancing partner. I need to know I will not be fighting with the stability of both rocks. Next, I need to facilitate a conversation. If observing is about assessing one rock's potential to balance with another, then finding that balance is about listening for their mutual tells. Each rock indicates how and where it is most likely to balance. And my job? I just need to guide them in the right direction. But no rock stands upended in an unnatural manner on the first try. It's kind of like an awkward dance, and I'm the dance instructor. Hands here, chest out, shoulders back, now twirl. The upper rock tells me how gravity is trying to pull it to the ground, and both rocks are telling me how much of a connection they're making. All I'm doing is aligning the upper rock until it tells me it's feeling less resistance to gravity and more centeredness with the lower rock. This is when time begins to stand still, and this is when it starts to get really fun. You remember how I said I can't recall the 3rd rock balancing principle? This is what I found with every rock sculpture. There is a moment when a rock pair clicks. It's a confirmation that the rocks have locked in. I slowly pull my hands away. The rocks stand there. They don't move. And just like that, there's an aha moment, a delightful outcome. Something totally unexpected. Something I had no idea was possible. And every time it happens, I get a deep sense of satisfaction. Much like I discovered with rocks, serendipity happens on the best teams I've ever coached or worked with. The basic principles of effective teaming are remarkably similar to causing rocks to strike a gravity-defying pose. When 2 or more rocks come together this way, they find a gravitational through line, a unifying tension that holds all the rocks together as a single entity. This tension represents their purpose, to stand on end in a way they didn't know was possible, and to produce something unexpected, if not delightful. Similarly, all teams have a distinct purpose within an organization. Every team you and I have ever worked on was meant to solve a specific type of problem. Having a clear sense of their purpose motivates teams, which leads to high performance. That's why establishing a shared understanding of what we do and why we do it is so important. How else will we know what doing the unexpected looks like? But it's not just about a team's purpose. We must also explore how individual expectation fits within the overall organization. Every member of your team has their own sense of why they belong to the organization. Because not everything the organization wants is what I want. And what I want is not always what the organization wants. To move from producing outputs to outcomes, we need to align our individual goals with team goals. Shared understanding is the creative tension that forges a common center of gravity. Creative tension happens when we integrate our personal and organizational missions. Leaders provide the creative tension of what it means to produce something specific. The team provides the creative insight that produces something meaningful, something unexpected, maybe something delightful, something none of them knew was possible. To find that gravitational through line and forge that unifying creative tension, leaders must ask some very specific questions. Why are we here? What is our reason for existing as a team? What personal and team goals do we need to reconcile? Too many teams assume they know their purpose. But if we don't know where we're going and why, how do we know we're doing the right work? Once a team establishes a shared understanding of its purpose and everyone agrees to it, they must define the right process for achieving their goals. If a team's purpose is a vision of its destination, then its process is the roadmap. How do we maximize capability? How do we deliver value continuously? How might we experiment and learn rapidly? The process conversation is where team members are most likely to complain about which roadmap to follow. This is a natural byproduct of bringing people together with a variety of experience and expertise. There may be sharp differences of opinion on how to produce a specific outcome. That's why this step is critical. Teams need to lean into the discomfort and the complaining, the creative abrasion that produces better ways of working. If they don't, they will almost never find a sustainable balance for doing the work right. Finally, a team needs to define its dynamic, its norms of behavior for bringing out the best in everyone. We need to know where we're going. We need to know how best to get there. So you might think of the team's dynamic as its rules of the road. What do we bring to the team that is essential to our success? How will we work together to achieve our shared goals? How might we find meaning in the work and joy in the journey? Just as we can feel the rocks complain about their placement, creative abrasion will always happen on teams when finding the best way to be together. It takes time to learn how everyone clicks. Because every team has a center of gravity that is unique to its members. If one team member is out of alignment, so is the team. And if one rock will not balance, I promise you, neither will the rest. Shared understanding on any team is a moving target. And teams need to rediscover their center of gravity on a regular basis. That's why finding balance on any team requires these kinds of conversations. And it is why practices like conversational turn-taking, frequent retrospectives, thanking people for sharing their insights, helps build trust in each other and empathy for the abrasion we cause when doing the work well. Like rock balancing, I have learned effective teamwork is fluid. Collaborating to an unexpected outcome is like making two or more rocks stand in this unearthly manner. It is a delight to produce something we didn't know was possible. When it happens, it is a marvel to behold, and it is deeply gratifying to be part of the process. As leaders, we must believe our teams can find balance, and we must be willing to listen to how they are telling us they're not there yet. Negotiating balance requires patient, persistent engagement. Effective collaboration rests on a foundation of trust. No trust, no way of finding out what is working and what isn't. No way of getting better. It is when we lean into the tension and friction, the way the rocks complain and grind against each other, that we cultivate learning. When we encounter that tension and friction, it means our colleagues are telling us, are identifying for us, feedback loops, growth opportunities that help us improve how we engage with one another. And where there is trust, there is vulnerability. I believe every team can experience this kind of synergy. But finding balance is risky. The journey is ambiguous. There is uncertainty to every friction point we must properly understand to successfully negotiate. I admit not all the rocks I balance withstand the gravitational pull to do something they didn't know was possible. The best sculptures truly defy gravity and are a thing of beauty. And yet the balance can be so tenuous that the rocks fall the moment I step away. Or the tide comes in and the sculpture gives way. Or beachcombers wander by and want to touch them. Similarly, not every rock wants to balance for me. Sometimes I've had to put one rock aside to find another. You may need to help your team members find a better fit somewhere else. And without understanding the impact of your role in relation to your team, you might be the reason they don't find balance. And make no mistake, you do not want your feet underneath the rocks when the balancing dance breaks down and the sculpture collapses. Just like bare toes under falling rocks, crushed egos hurt. You remember how I said there's a difference between stacking and balancing rocks? Rock stacking is to rock balancing, as management is to leadership. Anyone can stack a pile of rocks, but it takes someone special to cause rocks to defy gravity. Thank you.